Today is my very favorite day to just show up. Hi, everyone. Yvonne Heath here, nurse turned author, speaker, and changemaker, and your host. Welcome to Navigating Grief with Heart and Humor, where we talk about, plan, and prepare for grief, transitions, end of life, all the messiness in between, long before it arrives, and diffuse the fear. Truly, most of the time we've been in the deep trenches of grief and realized how ill prepared we were. We didn't see it coming, even though we do know that it is a part of this journey. Grief transitions, the unexpected, and we realize that we created our own excessive suffering. So we are becoming proactive. And I say becoming because we're always a work in progress, always learning, unlearning, and evolving, and wanting to do it differently next time, better next time, because we can. And how we do that is by being willing to be vulnerable, share our stories unapologetically, accept our flawed, imperfect selves, support one another, and learn from each experience, each story, and create a supportive village. And I am a part of your supportive village, and I thank you for just showing up and being a part of mine. And so as we get started, I always want to share my message with heart and humor because it's already serious enough. And I want to share a fun fact. I know that I shared before, I spoke to a class, a grade 2 class at a local school. And these children were so extraordinary. I wore this fun shirt, wanted to be colorful, and we talked about big grief, little grief, hard times, and they just share. They just unapologetically share, laugh, cry. They're just beautiful. And the other day, their teacher just showed up at my house. Well, she let me know she was coming. And she brought this card, and all the children from the class signed it, and they were thanking me for just showing up and sharing my message. They really, really got it. They got the I Just Showed Up message. They understood how they needed to just show up for themselves first. And it gave me so much hope. Imagine children learning this and understanding this throughout life. And as they get older, understanding it at a deeper level. I believe with all my heart and soul, we could create a much healthier, compassionate community. We could avoid many mental, physical, emotional health issues if we knew how to just show up for ourselves and one another. And as I said, it gives me hope that these young minds, they get it. They really do. And I told them to keep wearing their bracelets and have these conversations. And I told them to go home and tell their parents to watch my TED Talk. So that was my fun fact. And truly, this card means the world to me. Now, you see, they just showed up for me by writing their names and the group hugs we had, and the teacher just showed up by bringing me this card. And so such a wonderful moment. And so let's get started with today. It's interesting as we talk about, in the last episode, I talked about anticipatory grief and secondary losses. And I want to talk a little bit more about secondary losses and gains. And, it's always a yes and. So before I get started, as always, my ritual is to close my eyes, take 2 slow, deep breaths, really land here, forget about all the things calling me away from our time together on the other side of that door. We all have stuff. We all have many things. We wear many hats. Let's stop talking about how busy we are. I always say to people, I don't want to talk about how busy I am. If I feel like that's all I need to talk about, I have to say, what can I do to change that? Because we're meant to enjoy this life, savor this life, and really be present, be mindful on our journey. And if we're always so busy and spinning our wheels, we're missing. It's the whole making plans. We miss life when we're making plans to do other things, or however that goes. So for our time, this is my reminder to myself to quieten the noise, to just be fully present, to learn what I need to learn, because I'm always learning, and to share what your heart and soul needs to hear. So I will set an intention, and I invite you to do the same. You can create your own ritual, whatever helps you to be fully present and land here, or I invite you to join me. So if you would like to, close your eyes, and I'm going to take 2 slow, deep breaths, inhaling and setting an intention, inhaling through my nose and exhaling through my mouth. And as I do that, I let go of everything and ground myself one more time, inhaling with intention and exhaling through my mouth and letting go. I love how wonderfully this works. So let's talk about secondary losses and the gains, right? Whenever we're saying goodbye to something old or familiar, there is grief. There is grief and joy. And in something new, because when we're saying goodbye, when one door closes, another opens, or a window opens, or whatever, however you want to think of it, but there's always something new. And I share, you never know what awaits on the other side of grief. You never know. You cannot possibly anticipate with this new chapter, this new part of your journey. Yes, it will bring grief, and it will bring joy. And when you are saying goodbye to something, someone, you are saying goodbye to grief, or you are grieving, or you are saying goodbye to joy and creating joy. It's all a big swirl. It's never all one or the other. It's a roller coaster, and we have to learn how to hang on through the dips and curves. So in the last episode, I shared my journey of grief and joy, as Jane and Tanner, our twins, are preparing, or they are at this time gone to camp. They're camp counselors, having the time of their lives, and then they're going to university. And I was speaking about all the secondary losses, the no longer having their friends just show up and being a part of our house, and hearing them laugh and sing and have fun, and the connection with the high school that's no longer there at the same level, and the kids' parents, etc., and going to volleyball and all these things. So in those secondary losses, yes, there is grief, and we simply must be very intentional about cultivating the joy, and like digging it out and seeing what is joyful about that. Well, I can tell you that, again, children not being here, friends not dropping by, yes, and wow, the joy, our grocery bill. Whew, that is very joyful, let me tell you, because it is less than half. When a room gets tidied, it stays that way. And oh, look, I tidied this room, and there's nothing changed, because I love my children, but sometimes there's a little trail. I don't clean up behind them. I refuse. However, I do have to say, oh, somebody come and clean their mess. I don't miss that. There's joy in that. And again, with not having friends over, or all of the rest, it's so less busy and hectic. and not going to volleyball tournaments on the weekends. It's just more restful and quiet. I enjoy the quiet. And so again, the secondary law says there are also gains. Those are the good things. Those are the good things. And so a couple other examples when we move, right? When we move, whether it is our choice or whether we had no choice in the matter, we have to move, whether it's financial reasons or whatever it may be. There is absolutely a slew of secondary losses, even if you are excited about this move and it was your choice. You may be so sad to leave your neighbors. Even the familiarity, if you're moving to a different town, or even, just a different part of town, you're familiar with your neighborhood, the corner store, Joe who fixes your car, your yoga class, your doctor, dentist, whoever is in your circle. There will be some people are saying, you know what, I'm really glad that this is going to change. And for others, there will be sadness and grief. And again, many secondary losses. Geez, I'm not going to get to see my friends' kids grow up, or, again, when someone becomes ill and I no longer live here, I'm not going to be able to go visit them the same. And so there's this ripple of loss when we move, the familiarity, the house that maybe, geez, something's bugging me here. The familiarity of where we live in our house. And even if we don't love it, we've set it up and we're familiar and we don't have to go buy new things. And so there are many, many losses that stem from moving, even if we're excited to move. And then it's a yes. And right around the corner when we move, there's this cleansing, right? Because hopefully we've decluttered along the way and we're starting fresh. And maybe we're not familiar with this new neighborhood and we're sad about not having our same walking trail, which is actually something that happened to us when we moved a couple of years ago. I was so sad to be missing our walking trail, and where we are now, there's a better walking trail. Why? Because there are less bugs where I live now, and mosquitoes and black flies. So we can use the trails a lot more often, which I didn't even anticipate, right? To me, that was a big loss stemming from moving. And we had familiar neighbors, and you have familiar neighbors. And here, again, we've created this whole new network of neighbors. So in moving, again, it's a yes, and you're saying goodbye to the familiar, and there are those secondary losses of, wow, I won't be a part of this anymore. And you get to see, instead of I have to, words and how we phrase things are so important. Yes, I am grieving. Absolutely acknowledge and allow those feelings. I'm grieving these things. And I also get to find a new yoga class, find a new walking trail, connect with new neighbors. And I think we need to become more intentional as well about reaching out, stepping out of our comfort zone, because there is that tremendous opportunity for growth and for new connection. And maybe you can reconnect and stay connected with your old neighbors, and once a year you get together, whatever it may be. We always get to choose, right? And again, even if you're moving and it isn't a choice, you didn't want to move. And so in acknowledging and allowing your grief and frustration, whatever else it may be, and now what? It's always important to get to the now what. What can I do? And we can create those new connections. And yes, acknowledging the secondary losses. It's not just moving from your home or your town. Yes, there's a ripple. And if there are things that are near and dear to your heart, your church, your sports club, whatever it may be, create ways to stay connected and to make new connections, right? We always have those choices. Now, of course, in secondary losses and gains, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room, where we'll talk about the big D. Dying, death, the death of a loved one, the death of a pet. So let's just start with the death of a pet. So many losses. Let's never underestimate the depth of someone's grief when a pet dies. And let's not judge or compare, oh, it's only a dog, it's only a cat, it's only whatever. If it was everything to that person, even if it was a snake, I mean, I shouldn't say even if it's a snake, a rat, whatever. If that ferret meant everything to that person, then, and they're grieving, then let's just love them through it. So when our pet dies, not if. When I hear people say, if my dog dies, like, oh, dear Lord, when, right? Let's be proactive and let's know, okay, this is this breed of dog. You know, if they live a full life, it will be 12 years, 15 years, maybe 18, whatever it may be. And I know that I'm so connected to this animal. I need to understand and accept, etc. So to know, right, that this will be the lifespan of our pet, or as life is unpredictable, something could happen, an accident, the pet, your beloved dog could be sick, whatever it may be. To prepare yourself for the just fully, fully love your pet. Just love with everything you have, and know that, yes, you're going to grieve. Absolutely. Our little pug, Frankie. Oh, I said we cried so hard. I was like a blowfish when she was dying and when she died. And that's okay, because now I have a little Frankie scar on my heart. And that's what I told the kids. You have a little Frankie scar on your heart. Your heart heals. Battered, scarred, never the same. It will heal. And you can take that love for that pet and go love another pet, go love pets at the shelter, whatever. You know, you can just take that love you feel and just keep spreading it around. So the other piece of that, when I say there are secondary losses, of course, we know we grieve our pet. Well, you will also grieve the fact that you had to walk your dog. It made you get out and you exercised more, and, you know, you saw your neighbors and you had the little chat and the dogs visited each other. Or maybe you went to a dog park and all the dogs ran around together. And people stopped and looked at, oh, your dog is so cute. Well, you know, sometimes people looked at our pug and said, dear God, what is that? Hey, I thought she was cute. And so we all did. So there are those secondary losses, right? That connection with other dog lovers. Maybe you were online with pugsareus.com or whatever, like you had a little Facebook group with your corgis, whatever. There are other losses. And so remembering that is a part of it, right? And people say, oh, don't get another pet right away. Well, if you're going to get another pet when you are ready, keeping in mind that it may not fill the gap of the secondary losses. Maybe you get a new dog, and this dog you can't bring to the dog park because it doesn't like other dogs. Maybe, you know, you want to go for like 5 kilometer or 5 mile in the States walks, and this dog is so lazy it doesn't want to go anywhere. So to be aware of the secondary losses in your grief, I think, is really important for our healing journey. And the other piece of that is that there are gains. And it's funny because sometimes people feel guilty. Oh gosh, you know, I shouldn't be happy that my dog died, or I shouldn't, whatever pet, my parrot that was going to live 70 years, I shouldn't feel good. However, there are some gains in our pets no longer being a part of our circle. There is more freedom. You no longer have to find someone to let your dog out when you go away. How wonderful. There's freedom in that. Less hair, less dog expenses, right? If you're even just going to the vet, took our dog to the vet for a healthy check, and she was healthy, so why'd it cost $300? I'm just saying. Ugh. And there's tick medicine and flea medicine and all of these things. So that is a gain. And if we can allow ourselves not to feel guilty, or to feel guilty and remember, okay, yeah, I feel this guilt. However, I'm okay. I'm okay. Yes, I understand this is just my reaction, and it is okay to celebrate these things, even when a loved one dies. That's a big elephant in the room, isn't it? The secondary losses are sometimes just extend past our comprehension at the time. Not only are we missing the physical presence of that person in our lives, we're missing Friday night dinners with friends, or, in divorce, this happens too, right? Friday night dinners with friends, certain friends that were friends of my spouse or partner, and now I don't see them anymore because my partner isn't here. How people see us differently, or, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. So they avoid, and you're just, the conversation changes, the way people look at you change, again, in death or divorce, right? Divorce is a huge death of a relationship, and now you're a divorcee or a widow, and you don't want those titles. And then perhaps you're going to be dating again down the road, and you didn't expect it, and it just happened, and suddenly people are angry with you, or relationships change because they don't understand. And there's, again, secondary losses in all of this. And the truth is, there is also the gains are newfound freedom. If you are a caregiver, listen, when a loved one dies and you have been a caregiver, they are no longer suffering, and you are no longer caregiving. That is, again, that is something to allow yourself to be joyful about. Maybe not a woohoo, jumping up and down. Well, if you want to, that's fine. It is okay to say, wow, I am relieved. I am relieved that I no longer have to do all of these things. I am relieved that my loved one isn't suffering anymore. And yet, the secondary losses in that, maybe you had nurses coming over and healthcare people, and people visited more because you had a sick loved one. Suddenly that isn't happening. You are continuously, not only are you missing the physical presence of that person, but you were continuously busy trying to figure out medications and this and that. And suddenly there's this big empty void. And in that secondary loss, if we can allow our feelings about it and then get to, wow, okay, the gain is I now have space. Maybe I can read a book. Maybe I can start a garden, start walking. We don't have to think, we have to start doing grandiose things. There is always a new opportunity waiting for us around the corner when we are in deep grief and we are experiencing this pain, grief. Sometimes we are just gutted. We feel like we can't go on. I invite you to pause and just acknowledge and allow all of your feelings. Acknowledge and allow whatever is showing up. Understand that you are grieving this person, this pet, this move, kids leaving home, divorce, whatever it may be. And you are grieving an array of secondary losses. There are, and some of them you can't even see or think of at the time. And you're thinking like, I'm okay with this. Dad was really ill, my husband, whatever it may be. And yet I'm still really churning and I'm not sure what it's about. So explore those secondary losses. And once you've acknowledged, allowed all of your feelings and understand that there is grief and joy to be had in and to cultivate, to be intentional and be intentional about grieving and be intentional about creating and recognizing the joy, the gains, the new opportunities, the opportunity to get out of your comfort zone and create new connections, become a new you, become a new you. And please remember, in all of it, you will be flawed and imperfect, and you do not have to do it alone. You do not have to do it alone. We are hardwired for connection. If what you are, who or what you are grieving and all those secondary losses were just deep, meaningful connections for you, remember, we have an infinite ability and capacity to love and to connect. And this can be, I promise you, this can be a new opportunity for great love and great connection, recognizing that there is much to grieve. And that is just a part of this journey we call life. I would really love if we talked about this throughout life, right? Again, even thinking about the grade 2 class, so many of them were excited to go into their next class and grieving leaving their teacher. If they only knew, right? And the secondary losses, they were going to change. They were going to change schoolyards, and they weren't going to be right beside this other teacher that they knew. And this person, things change all the time. And if we can understand in secondary losses and gains, there's grief and joy, I think that we can better support one another on this journey. I would love to hear all of the secondary losses and gains that you didn't actually, or you recognize or didn't recognize would be a part of the grief or change that you understood and recognized and didn't realize the impact all of the rest would have. Because it is in sharing our journeys that we learn from one another, and that's how we heal. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of my journey. You know, on my website, loveyourlifetodeath.com, I have many resources in my book, my program, Get Ready for Grief. And, you know, the I Just Showed Up bracelet, I believe that every single one of us need to have an I Just Showed Up bracelet to remind ourselves to just show up for ourselves first and just show up for one another. And as we teach by example, we have to understand that we are continuously learning, unlearning, and evolving. And so I invite you to watch archive shows. I invite you to learn from all the other beautiful, wonderful, full of wisdom and insight show hosts on Win-Win Women. And mostly I invite you to this call to action. If you want to be able to just show up for yourself and others and recognize losses and secondary loss and gain in this journey, plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party. Thank you again for joining me. One of these days, I'm going to find a way to actually let my tambourine make noise because, because my microphone mutes it out. I love you. Namaste, my friends. Bye for now.